And hello. This is things you might not have heard for the 11th of December, 2025. 11 taken away from 25 equals, I'll let you do the math today. But you know how many days till Christmas. We're doing that as a more or less running gag. Yeah, it's 14. Yeah, 14 days till Christmas. So don't forget that. Don't screw that up. We are back today after a day off yesterday, which we were sort of preparing for what was going to be a heavy day. Good news, no real series, no extra surgeries. I'm all good. Take care of myself, stuff like that. Bad news, we're late today, not because of all the brand news that's here, although we were late trying to put some news in, but essentially the earbuds weren't operating. Literally, I couldn't get my earbuds to come out of the hole they were supposed to. But we're here. We're a little late, a lot late. But we're going to get you what we promise you every single weekday when we show up. That is 8 news stories, 10 on Monday, but 8 news stories that will get your day started to recap the last 24 hours, 30 hours or so, based on how we do things, and get you forward for things going forward. Things that get you some outrage in the future from the outrage from the past. Now, we're going to get you that with Kamala Harris, and we're doing her autopsy for her campaign. And guess what? It sucked. But we'll talk about that in the stories. Also, headlines including things like the Federal Reserve getting that rate cut in, but not quite enough for Donald Trump, and Times New Roman is in the news for reasons that make no sense, but we have to report them because they're there. Now, remind you that we report things all over the place and let you know how to find them by going to our website. This is theconversationproject.com. This is part of the early part where we ask you to join the feeds on Facebook and X. You help pull these stories up. You help tell me that these stories were important enough to chat about, which is why we're chatting them up here. Maybe in the Times of Roman story, but that's going to be bigger going forward. And you can also help us engage with other things and help us out by being a partner, helping us pay for things, and seeing our sponsors. We're going to highlight one sponsor today, which is Ground News, when we highlight a lot because they do a lot for us. But you will see that coming up in a bit. So as we are already running behind, let's get into the news headlines and try to catch up with the fitness that may be today's stories. If it ran because I missed it yesterday. Let's go with number one. Trump says the U.S. has seized a VLCC crude tanker off Venezuela. This is coming from many outlets going forward, but Trump basically said that in one of his rambling things yesterday. That by the way, we seized a tanker off Venezuela, oil tanker, largest tanker ever, things like that. As he says, the Coast Guard executed a operational issue under a federal seizure warrant. This is not blowing up the drug boats. This is a totally different thing. This is Coast Guard doing its police mission as it should do. So nobody's complaining about this one, and it just happened to be there. However, thoughts are coming up. Now, Attorney General Pam Bondi posted the video of the helicopters near the vessel and claimed the ship moved sanctioned oil tied to Iran and Venezuela, which is a good reason to stop it. Sanctioned oil should be stopped. Officials declined to name the owner. Trump suggested the U.S. may keep the oil, which is a bit of an accessory signal in the sanctions enforcement. Now, the listing from the administration frames this tanker seizure as the largest ever, as Trump has said. Actually, this is mostly Trump said it, so now they have to keep saying it. The interdiction to deter sanctions on invasion. But here's the thing. It's off Venezuela, and the definition of this means now that we're seizing ships, is this actual escalation to on land to, do police actions, if you will, or start regime change, if you will. That's where the real question comes, and that's where the folks that attract folks like Senator, the Senator of Kentucky, tends to do, Rand Paul, or it sounds like a big escalation. Well, what exactly are we doing? And that's where the administration and the military need to come to Congress and say, this is what we're doing. And they say, okay, and go on with it. More ways than one. However, the blowing up of the drug boats, separate from the seizing of the oil tanker, makes this a interesting conundrum. Here's a new conundrum for you as well. The Federal Reserve actually went ahead and cut rates by another quarter point. The problem is there's still divisions inside of what they're doing, and Donald Trump wanted more than a quarter point. The Fed cut the rate policy by 25 BPSs, which is target regions from 3.5% and 3.7%. Public signaling disagreement over the path ahead. Essentially, they're not so sure what's going to happen. They're going to cut rates to make things a little easier to work right now. I'm not sure if they can do any more or any less. It's going to fix anything because they're not sure how things go. Sharper splits between the doves and the hawks in the administration and inside the Fed, pushing for faster and easing of members, warning about sticky services, inflation. Inflation is what you're trying to fight, keep from happening by these rate cuts. So expect markets to make the dot plot conversions more than the headline that you see here. The cut is a big deal because everybody seems to administration wants money cheaper. They want the chaos agent, so he wants more cuts. Let's just say that right now. He wants more cuts because it means things move. Things are moving. Things are moving, are bouncing around, and it seems like it's something going on. Movement means something's going on. Not necessarily the best thing, but it's what's happening. Investors are focusing on shifts to statement of economic projections, essentially how things are projected to go, not so much how making the bouncing ball go up and down. So, what changed versus what next? The rates changed. The vote changed to be right up, and the guidance going forward has shifted. But next up is just an eye on how the labor markets are working. How inflation is going that are there in the actual money that we're actually printing or not printing, and what happens there. You can explain some things about how things go up, consumers issues, mortgages, credit cards, all those things have a big deal because they should be cheaper with the rates going down. Sometimes inflation will find a way to fight that fight for you and make it not happen the way the books tell you to. Progressives have actually moved in to do an autopsy on 2024 specifically, kind of the whole in general year of setting up for the election and what went wrong after the vote went through. And Kamala Harris's final verdict is essentially wrong voters, wrong message. Action Aligned report argues that Harris chased moderates, neglected working class voters. Gaza policy flagged as a drag with young progressives. These are things that made it the wrong people that she was talking to and the wrong messages she was giving out there to talk to people to not bring in enough folks to vote for her. Now, the thesis of this autopsy is the coalition strategy mismatched the electorate and that actually turned out. Pretty simple. These people came out to vote, and Kamala Harris did not speak to them. And she did, she spoke down to them and not very well. So the autopsy was a turnout, and a turnout exactly is something that you look into the past and what's going on there. An autopsy really is the worst word to use because it means that your group is dead. It's not a review, it's a what happened, how did it die, and we can't bring it back. So the words, the semantics are really bad. So and so campaigns like this, the analytics are always there. But here's the thing. Kamala Harris lost the election. We can say that. She lost it by actual votes. We can say that. And what happened was Kamala Harris came in on the tail end on a short election campaign after we expected Biden to run the campaign to the end. Whether he would have won or lost, all the voters, all the metrics sort of pointed to Biden winning a second term until we found out he wasn't quite up for the game. And then they gave it to Harris, who, ironically, whether you like it or not, people didn't like very much. And because of that, she had to sell herself, not just the agenda or the Biden agenda. That was a recording slip. And guess what? She couldn't do it. Is what happened. Would a different candidate made a difference? Would a primary to see who would have outdid anything? Would Gavin Newsom have made a difference? Would it have been anybody made a difference? Who knows? Because that's the past, and we're going forward, and we only plan for 2028. Hopefully, we shall see what happens as the Democrats try to figure out after the midterms who will be the rising star to put up against whoever the Republicans' rising star will be in 2028. The daughter of Venezuela's María Machado accepted the Nobel Peace Prize on her mother's behalf, but there are some updates to the story that popped in as we were basically in there, so we'll just add those there. Now, the big story that we have is the fact that in Oslo yesterday, Machado's daughter accepted the Nobel Peace Prize for her at the ceremony, remarks spotlighting political prisoners and declaration of restoration in Venezuela. So that's a great thing. Here's what happened in the meantime. Machado was there or was in the room, in the area. She was nearby. She waved to crowds from a hotel space in Oslo, and she did some interviews with people to get her word out there. Early this morning, our time, or early this morning, their time, not quite there here. She did a joint press conference with the Oslo representatives, talking about her plight, her struggle, what's going on. So she's being seen under some very, very, very scrutinous conditions, lots of security, lots of things going on, and she is public. We know where she is. She's in a hotel, and she's got like there's guards around the place like it's Fort Knox. So she is doing what she can to get some sort of exposure. She believes that no one in Venezuela actually knew where she was and how to get her back out. This what happened again. She'll go back into hiding for a while, but the prize was accepted by a member of her family, which they enjoyed going forward. We got to see the family actually accept the prize. We got to see her and her do some little things. We'll see what she's doing for the nation outside of the nation the next few days in Oslo. So we're here at the part where, like I said, we're a lot behind. So we're going to speed this up very quickly. I was gone 2 days, so you missed out on the joy of seeing me beg hang out with us. But here we are. I'm begging you to come hang out with us. Like, share, and subscribe to the videos you're seeing here at the conversation. It's very simple. If you enjoy the videos that I'm doing for you here, just click the like button. Don't have to click anything special. Just show the world, show the internet that you like it. The algorithms will hopefully respond by showing to more people. That way, we get more folks, more fun into what's going on. That would be great. If you know some like-minded people who are ready to go, share it with them as well. Hopefully, they will share it. They will like it. They will respond to it. They will go both times. It is the thing that we're doing all they're doing these days. The kids are loving these days sharing the conversation project. We are very happy with the response we're getting for people who are liking, sharing, and subscribing specifically on YouTube. So we need more folks to do that so we can grow it as a platform. Silver and gold play buttons nowhere near in our future. But hey, we can, can't we? If you do that, like, share, and subscribe, we will get a chance to grow and all the things we do to be better at the news and commentary and sharing that we are, or we at least want to be at some point in time. This picture doesn't really go along with the story, but it does. A judge has approved the release of additional Epstein grand jury material to the public. These are not the Epstein files. This is stuff that's not actually very relevant, to be honest. But Manhattan federal judge is authorizing disclosure of previously sealed grand jury records for the Epstein probes. The Reuters stepped in with this one. We got some pieces there noting that the order follows media petitions to clarify earlier prosecutor decisions. But remember, this is not the Epstein files that the government is holding on to, that the federal governments have been saying on Pam Bundy's desk for months now. So the names and allegations are held with caution because the YouTube documents are already posted. These are things that have already been flushed through, worked out, whatever. Just what they use for the grand juries essentially to say whether they're going to look into this or not. And they still found reason to look into most of the things going forward. So there'll be follow-ups coming up. We'll have to go do things because we don't know anything, just at least some of the grand jury stuff. Nothing necessarily new, nothing bombshell worthy, just things that have built us up towards the actual investigations, not things that we don't know that have been being sealed because we could not get a real prosecution based on how the whole story actually. Here's a story of good and not so good because the WNBA is announcing expansion. Three new cities bring the league to a record 18 teams. They'll be at 18 teams when the franchise award ever have been awarded to Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia when they all open up. Cleveland coming up first, then Detroit and Philly by 2030. It's 2025, 26 essentially now. So that means in about 4 years or so, there'll be 18 teams in the WNBA. So that's great. More roster spots, more inventory, more fresh sponsor local ships to pull into this one, especially in team markets that they have good synergy and in places where they love to play local sports and love to do synergy for those things. But the serious but here, all the dudes will get a hold of this stuff is most of these teams aren't close to profit. which ironically, many small team or little league football teams or league football teams, they're not all that profitable. Some of them make enough to keep going. The point of those teams are to basically be feeder teams to basically have things to do in a town and to feed more talented people who aren't making it in the big leagues to the big leagues when time comes. That doesn't happen for the NBA or the WNBA, I should say, because they're not feeding anyone past the WNBA. This is professional league for the women, and it has to be big enough, good enough, bad enough to keep things going. Will 18 teams in the league be sustainable in 4 or 5 years? We hope so. We hope so. Now, remember, these teams get a lot of subsidies from the main parent company, the NBA. They're not like the G League, where they're literally just playing in smaller gyms to keep people active, keep people warmed up, to pull them up just in case they need them. These are the best of the best in the world. And this, as you can see, the reason why they're here in that level is so they can play with the best, not have to go to Russia and get arrested for minor charges of weed, because that happens. We shall see if 18 teams can go. We'll still see if the Caitlin Clark sort of mystique will last a couple more seasons. After her getting hurt this season, things sort of died down with the WNBA, although people love Giant Parker and things like that. It's just the folks like that do the great things. But we'll see how much love the women get going forward. And if 18 teams will add to the love that goes forward. Dozens of abducted Nigerian children have been out of families after release. Local officials have created a community mediators and security pressure space so that they can get the parents and the students back together. This is great news as reuniting of parents with their children after the abductions. Now, emphasis is on the ongoing kidnap and ransom crisis and the gaps in rural policing that make these things happen. This doesn't happen in Kentucky. I don't think so, because we'd be talking about it pretty crazily if grands of people just went up and just pulled up people and took the kids and put them for ransom. If it did, there'd be heads to roll. It would be bad. So this is a big deal to talk about. It seems like one of those over there, that's whole country stories. Think Donald Trump and why you complain about them, but this is a big deal. Why do conditions exist so that this what can be done by them, what can be done by us to keep these things from happening? How do we protect all the children everywhere, even the ones that may not be the same nationality or the proper, because it means something all around. Now, here's a story that popped up new this morning. So I jumped up with this one, and this is one that I'm going to tell you honestly. May not have gotten the reaction initially that may have popped this in here, but I'm going to do a hot take about it anyway. I'm going to talk about it. It goes to a larger sort of statement. The headline for the story that the Red editor basically turned it into was Secretary of State Marco Rubio ends use of Calibri typeface in source Times New Roman in a push against Biden era diversity initiatives. Now, that should tell you all you need to know, but some deeper detail of this right now is that Rubio ordered that all U.S. diplomats would stop using Calibri, return to Times New Roman, which is casting the 2023 switch as a DEI mistake. The guidance calls for Times New Roman back because it's more professional and it standardizes table formatting across posts. Maybe it does. But ABC notes that Biden era change aimed at accessibility. The credits say that serif fonts reduced legibility on some readers, i.e., Calibri, which was a standard by the Microsoft standards for quite some time. They actually just moved off into something else, which is better for the eyes, than Times New Roman. In fact, Times New Roman had been the standard for any Microsoft type deals, if you use that as your standpoint, for quite some time. Calibri has been the standard the whole time. Essentially, when Biden said, let's go Calibri, it was mostly because they got tired of having to change the fonts and everything they were using, because everybody was using something like Calibri. And they wanted something standard because there's the home pod, there's all those things like that. Arial's a pretty popular one, but it's what you have as something that is standard and fairly easier to read. Now, framing this fight as a font for the souls and hearts of men with DEI, more than a bit much. It's a lot. It's a lot. but it is what it is. So from this point on, Times New Roman, which kind of looks like a typewriter, but isn't quite typewriter-ish because typewriters are all the exact same size, which is why you don't use them, is going to be your official font for the state department. So says Marco Rubio. So it is law. Go forth and conquer, I guess. So if you are worried about the news stories that you are seeing in the world, in the just general internet spaces of states like that, here's a way for you to get a double check or triple check, or in some cases a quadruple check to see what exactly is going on. And that is by using our spotlight today, that is Ground News. Ground News will give you great news, pretty much. Well, or maybe it's not great news to you. It will be great news coverage because it gives you coverage from all single sides of the aisle. Literally, they'll tell you who's covering it, like how they're covering it, how they tend to cover things, and what they're actually saying about this thing in particular, this thing in the story you're pulling from the headline that may be a local headline, smaller, statewide, or maybe right in your community, plus things that are on a national scale, so you have a better things, and international scale. Anybody who picks the story off of some sort of wire and just pops it in there, maybe in like India or someplace like that, you can see who's covering, how they're covering it, and if it's just a basic wire story, or they're rewriting it so it looks more local to their area. And if they're rewriting it so that it's more inflammatory to a certain group or not group, because that's where things mean that happen. If you were to use our spotlight sponsor by going to their website, this is the conversation slash news and getting a 40% discount on their Advantage plan. You can have access to their blind spot feature, which will show you in great detail stories that are being overly played by one side or the other. It's interesting to see what stories that you seem to know by heart because your silos are given to you, that the other side really isn't talking about because it doesn't make a difference, and vice versa. Stories that you are getting because they show the other side as terrible people, the other side is like, no, we're not that bad. We're not going to show that going forward, or vice versa. Again, where the other side wants to not be look so bad, and they are, and don't want the other so great, they aren't. Or something. Podcast Feature does a lot for people checking out news stories who really want to see how things are being covered and really are into the, do your own research. But I actually want to see research that shows other competing forms and has to go back and forth, as opposed to just finding things such as, someone says something, you don't believe it, so you find someone to say something that exactly what you want to see. Ground News will help you do that. It's not funded by algorithms, not run by computers. It's it's aggregation. It's coverage of every single thing that it can be found on a certain topic and lets you see what's being told. It's that simple. Use our affiliate link, which gives us a small commission at this is conversationproject.com/ground news. This is conversationproject.com/ground news. As we said, get 40% off their plans, including an Advantage plan, and get all the news you can stand via Ground. Wrapping things up today with time with the us. Time with us. Our website home is this conversationproject.com. Our email address, the conversation inbox, and Facebook and X, where we have our you can join us and engage with the stories. Those stories in various in the morning that you might think are good enough to chat about. We'll see which stories are the tops. Hopefully pick the 8 or 10 on Mondays and work out the best for those things as well. In the meantime, today is Thursday. Today is the 11th day of December, and I'm doing math in my head again. So 25 minus 11, yeah, it's 1, it's 10, there's 14 days to Christmas. Keep that in mind as Christmas gets closer. I mean, that's quite seem like it yet. I know once it gets closer and brighter Christmases and more decorations and things, it does get to be a bit much. For me, it gets to be a bit much, but you'd see more of it and feel more like it. This is what we have for right now. So there we go. 15 days, 2 full weeks, plenty of time to buy something next couple days, put it in the mail, and get it to grandma before any issues arise. Love you. Mean it. Let's wrap up tomorrow with hopefully a great day of news. A great day today. Great morning of news. Friday.